This is gonna be so cool. I can't wait to see all the awesome moves, RWBY said. Indeed. Surely with the power of a monster and ingenuity of a human or faunus, Weiss said, quickly adding in those with animal traits before they could say anything. The possibilities are endless, she finished. Not to mention, we'll likely see many more monsters we haven't seen yet, or may not otherwise see, since not all of them have videos on them, Kira added. So, you guys have all of these monsters? John asked in amazement. Between the two of us, yes. A lot of riders have multiple mounts, and we're no exceptions, Teko confirmed. Yeah. We definitely have our favorites and our main mount, like mine is a Barioth named Crystal and Teko has a Deviljo named Crush Jaw Real Original, by the way, sis, but we could make just about any monster work, Rizara agreed, causing Teko to pout at the jab to her monstie. Still, it will be really nice to see how you girls interact with your monsters. I'm sure both of you show them great trust and care, Summer said. Alright, trust and care. Rizara said, scratching the back of her head, knowing that incident with her Kutku would likely show up. I'm indeed interested to see just how well these monsters can work with humans, Glinda stated. Not to mention, it should give us an idea of their upward limits, which will be helpful for dealing with wild monsters, Ironwood added. I'm just looking forward to seeing some cool moves, Crow stated. Then without further ado, here we go, Katana declared, starting the video. Aptonoth slip in, slam. The Aptonoth rushed at a down Hermitor, but slipped on a banana peel, sending itself into the air as Rizara slipped off its back, the herbivore falling and miraculously crashing into the Hermitor, crushing it beneath the beast. Popo dived. The Popo charged through a winter tundra, before its foot caught a rock and caused it to go flying forward, Teko flying off the beast's back, before the herbivore slammed into his Amtrios, knocking it onto its back. Apsaro's dynamic spin. The hard-shelled herbivore charged forward, before Rizara suddenly leapt off its back as it stepped sideways and rolled with great force, flipping onto its back and spinning around like a deadly spinning top, before colliding with a blue Yain Kutku. The students, along with Summer, Roman and Crow, were all laughing at the attacks, while the more mature amongst the audience were left stunned. Well, certainly unusual, but definitely effective, Ojpin stated. Indeed. It certainly makes sense. Those are rather bulky herbivores. I suppose throwing or dropping their full weight on someone or thing would hurt quite a bit, Winter said, slowly regaining her composure. Yeah, I mean if you throw a cow at someone, it'd probably do some damage, Roman stated. You'd think something that bulky would have a better center of gravity, though, Hazel stated. I don't know. Monsters seem to interact with gravity differently. That's probably how the bigger monsters don't die under their own weight, Katana theorized. Velocidrome. Velociraptor Rizara raised her arm into the air to order her Velocidrome forward, the raptor-like creature screaming in compliance, before leaping into the air, doing several flips and emerging in an upright position, delivering a rain of deadly clawed kicks onto another Velocidrome. That's a pretty cool-looking raptor. And it's got some nice kicks. Maybe we found you a second monster, Coco noted. Maybe. I do like its head crest and big red claws, Velvet admitted. Not to mention, that's an impressive level of coordination to throw so many kicks all at once without catching its feet on each other, Ren pointed out. In addition, it's quite agile and acrobatic. Those flips were quite impressive. I'm certain it could have done plenty of extra damage by flipping towards its foe. Surely, its claws, beak and tail would be able to deal significant injury, Penny added. Arzuro's hunter's claws. The blue bear beast swiped its paw through a river, sending 2 salmon airborne, which the Arzuros and Teko each caught one of them in their mouths, before diving down at another Arzuro's, Teko's bear beast slashing its counterpart across the face with a cross slash. This one is my favorite. Hands down, Blake said, drooling. Gosh, I wonder why. So, did you actually see the attack itself, or did you just focus on the fish? Emerald asked, summoning a napkin and wiping Blake's mouth. Hey, I can't see anything wrong with that. A nice, strong attack with a meal to go. That's a good deal, Crow said. Neo giggled. Hey Roman, I just got a slogan idea for your inevitable scheme to sell people our Zuros. It fights for you and feeds you. What more could you want? Neo asked. That's actually not bad. But seriously, cool move, Teko, Yang said, giving her a thumbs up. You know, I only just realized, I kind of look like Nezuko with that fish in my mouth, Teko noted. Who, everyone asked, cutest demon ever. Besides my babies of course, Katana said, hugging her daughters. Mom, they both whined in embarrassment, trying to escape their mother's hold. Yayan Kutku fireball expulsion. The strange bird wyvern rushed forward at Rizara's command, before stopping as a trio of Khonshu passed in front of them. At the sight of their natural predator, the insects curled up into balls for defense, but this only doomed them to be eaten by the bird wyvern, who seemed incredibly happy with this meal. Rizara was less than pleased at her monster's lack of focus, however, and smacked it in the back of the head, causing it to cough up the Khonshu as fireballs, which blasted an unfortunate Velocidrome. Naturally Ruby, Pyrrha and Velvet were not very happy with that. Rizara, why did you do that? Ruby demanded, pouting instantly. Exactly, it was just trying to enjoy a tasty meal and you hit it like that? Unacceptable. Pyrrha criticized. Yeah, that'd be like taking a fish from Blake or pancakes from Nora. It's so mean. And you hurt the poor thing. It could have choked. Velvet added as they glared at the young demon, who despite being able to effortlessly defeat the three of them, was starting to feel much smaller. Well, I mean, come on. We were in the middle of a fight. That's definitely not a time to be eating. Wouldn't you guys get mad if Ruby pulled out some cookies and started eating if you were in the middle of a fight? Rizara tried to defend herself. Maybe, but we would smack her in the back of the head, especially when she's taking a bite. Weiss said. Don't worry, girls. I made sure to give her a good spanking for that. Katana assured them. Mom. Rizara cried out in embarrassment, shock and betrayal. Lagombai slide spinner. Teko was on the back of her Lagombai, riding it like a snowboard as it slid down a snowy mountain peak, the two of them doing several spins and flips in the air, almost like a pair of graceful figure skaters, before Lagombai came crashing down on its Velocidrome target like a devastating spinning ball of death. Ooh, yeah. I don't see that Velocidrome getting back up. Lagombai's at least twice as heavy, and it looks pretty frail to start with. John noted. Best. Slay. Ever. Ruby cheered. I know, right? So much fun. Teko said happily. We have to try that sometime. Could a field trip to Atlas be arranged? Coco asked. After seeing this, I'm certainly considering it. Glinda stated. Wow, Teko, you're quite the little gymnast, aren't you? You almost look like figure skaters, with all those twirls. Summer praised. Thank you. Teko accepted the praise, blushing madly. Bulldrome Wild Ride. Teko and her boar beast faced off against a Keizu, the Bulldrome scuffing its hoof in preparation for an attack, before it rushed forward at Teko's command, the massive hog creature weaving back and forth slightly, before slamming into and bowling over its target. Well, I don't know what else we were expecting. Cinder said with a shrug. Too straightforward and predictable. If their opponent wasn't blind, no way would that have worked. Adam stated. To be fair, I don't really see a giant boar being able to do much else, besides charge things. Ilya stated. Oh, no, they can do way more. They can also violently shake their heads back and forth. That's it. Katana said. Why would someone choose that as a monster? Ironwood asked. They're usually a beginner monster newbies get stuck with. But, in their defense, they are pretty tanky. Rizara admitted. Xantrios freezing spouts. Rizara braced herself as the Xantrios she sat on rapidly expanded into a massive beach ball, the shark-like amphibian giving a deadly smirk, before it created ice armor around its body in addition to its bloated size, leaping into the air and crashing down, unleashing a massive array of ice spikes in all directions, but mostly towards its target, slamming into the Keizu and forcing it to stagger back, before retreating. 1. Winter groaned while most of the students laughed, seeing it inflate. But they all went silent when the ice crystals shot up from the ground. Well, that was quite impressive. I can overlook the ball transformation for that. Winter admitted. Again, it is one of the Xantrio's unique abilities and strengths. It should be encouraged. Ashbin told the specialist. All those ice spikes slamming into it at high speeds, I'm amazed that Keizu isn't a pincushion. Weiss stated. That would make this a lot darker. Neo stated. Keizu sparked surprise. Teko suddenly found herself upside down as her Keizu had leapt onto the ceiling of a cave while she somehow hadn't noticed, almost causing her to fall out of her saddle, but she quickly grabbed the horn of the saddle and hung on while her mount swung back and forth from its suction cup tail, building up electrical power, before releasing from the cave roof, before landing on all fours and releasing a massive surge of electricity, almost looking like an electric explosion that decimated a Tigrex. While the creature did creep them out, Ruby and Nora had to admit, that was a fun attack to witness. That was so awesome. I want to do that. I'd get a huge boost to my semblance, too. Nora said excited. I know, right? That was so cute and looked like so much fun. Ruby cheered. Yeah, I don't see many Grimm walking away from that. Emerald agreed. Very impressive, Teko. But how did you avoid getting electrocuted? Cinder asked. Rubber undies. Teko explained simply, not caring if she revealed something rather private, much to the embarrassment of her mother and sister. Luckily, everyone else seemed too stunned at this revelation to respond. Gendrome Perilous Slash. Similar to the Velocydrome earlier, the Gendrome let out a battle cry before leaping into the air, with Rizara in tow, doing several spins. Unlike its statusless cousin, however, it landed with its head aimed down, rapidly taking several bites out of an Ursula, leaving the spider beast on its back, twitching from the neurotoxin. Wow. And I thought Nora was fast when eating pancakes. John said. John, that was rude. Pyrrha scolded. Still, that's quite interesting. Another raptor with a similar attack, but more bite-oriented. It really shows how different even the most similar of creatures are. She noted. Not to mention that spider's twitching like it's getting electrocuted. Hazel noted. So it's a thunder raptor? Young asked. Close. Gendrome has a paralytic bite. Rizara explained. Paralyzing raptor. Better. Young said. Royal Ludroth Moonsault Splash. Teko breached out of the water on the nose of a Komodo dragon-like leviathan with a large sponge-like mass around its neck. The two of them soaring high into the air, Teko leaping nearly 2 stories higher into the air above her mount, twisting elegantly in the air, before coming back down and stomping on the sponge-like mass and releasing several powerful and condensed balls of water, washing away another Nursilla. That thing looks pretty cool. Neo said. Royal Ludroth. It's a leviathan with a giant sponge mane on its neck to keep itself hydrated out of water. Teko stated. Interesting. Perhaps it could help out Sakurai and I with dishes as well. It already has the sponge. Ren pondered. Wow Ren, you really know how to make these awesome monsters boring. Coco told him. I would call that being resourceful, Miss Adele. Glinda berated the senior student. Gypsyro's venom flash. Rosaura sat on the back of a Gypsyros as the beast squawked and clacked its strange head ornament against its beak, creating several sparks, before letting out a powerful cry and unleashing a blinding flash of light. The next bit seemed to be from the target's point of view, which looked around before spotting the two in the air, at which point Rosaura pointed down at the enemy, to which the Gypsyros unleashed several blasts of venom at the rat halos, knocking it down and more than likely, out. That was pretty impressive. Maybe I should start carrying something that can blind the opponents, to help with a quick getaway. Ilya pondered. It's not much to look at, but that creature has some good versatility and movement. Adam stated. I bet watching a documentary about these guys would be funnier than any comedy show. Yang said, smirking a bit. Nersilla, Predator Needle. A Nersilla swung through the air on a line of web, Tekko holding on tightly as the Temnoceran launched itself high into the air, spinning several times, before righting itself and extending its stinger, the pair diving down onto a Diablo's, Nersilla injecting the stinger into the beast and dealing great damage, while also causing it to fall asleep. Pyrrha lit up at this. That looks really fun. And putting the enemy to sleep is a very effective strategy. Arachne, this move is perfect for us. Pyrrha said, hugging her giant spider. I know, right? You were swinging through the air like Spider-Man. Nora cheered. And indeed, a sleeping enemy is an easily defeated enemy. This attack will be incredibly useful. Ironwood agreed. Pico barrel bomb storm. Rosaura lifted a large barrel with a fuse coming from it above the head of her strange-looking, bird-like mount, which lit the fuse by striking its wings together to create a spark. The young Demoness then rolled the bomb down her mount's head and beak, the bird wyvern flicking its head to throw the barrel bomb at a Gendrome. Ooh, that's a pretty bird monster. What does it do? Velvet asked, clearly intrigued by the bird. Pico can use its beak and throat sac to mimic the calls of other monsters to attract prey or scare off predators or nuisances. Like if it's trying to eat some fish at a riverside, but some Jaggia keeps stealing them, it will make a Deviljo noise to scare them away. Problem is, more often than not, when it makes that monster call, the monster it's mimicking tends to show up. But it can also use its wings like flint and steel to make sparks to start fires. Rosaura explained. So, it could summon any monster, but you just made it light a fuse? Yang asked. While its mimicry summoning could be very useful, I also see it going very wrong. So perhaps that is the best option. Weiss defended the Demoness actions. Rathian, scorching slice. Tekko flew low to the ground on her Rathian as they flew towards their opponent at high speeds, the Rathian launching a fireball to deal damage and stun their enemy, a Diablos, before the Rathian did loop-de-loop in midair, diving down while doing an aileron roll, righting itself before it suddenly did several backflips at blazing speeds, to the point it even became a glowing green sawblade, knocking the horned wyvern down. Ruby, Yang, Nora, Neo, and Coco were amazed at the move. It was like a living sawblade. Ruby cried out. That is so awesome. Nora cheered. And I like the way it was glowing, too. Neo added. Totally. Better than any light show I've seen before. Yang agreed. Add a fog machine and some flashing lights and you're golden. Coco said. You haven't seen anything yet. Rosaura declared. Rosaura was then seen on a gold Rathian, doing the same move, but at the end of it, the power generated from the attack somehow created a black hole that sucked up everything within close proximity, before violently detonating. Everyone was left awestruck at this ability. It made a black hole. That's impossible. No living being should have the power to create a singularity such as that, even on a minor scale. And how did you even survive that? Winter demanded. We flew away really fast. It only lasted for a second at most. It didn't have enough time to do any serious damage. Rizara explained. Still, a creature being that powerful, even if a demon was increasing its power. You too might be more of a force of nature than Salem. Hazel said. Mom would have killed her a while ago, but it has to be residents of the world that destroys its ultimate evil. We can mess with a lot of stuff, but that's where the line is drawn. Teko stated. Still, with monsters like that on our side, it's sounding a lot less impossible to beat her than it did at first. Blake said. Baroth rushing charge. Rizara and her Baroth backed up, the mounted monster ankle-deep in thick mud, before it roared with its head held low, digging and rolling up a massive mud ball, much to Rizara's misfortune, as a large glob flew back and hit her in the face, before the brute wyvern finally shot it forward, slamming into and knocking the gendarme they faced back several feet. Crow, Summer and the less mature students all chuckled at this. That gives fighting dirty a whole new meaning. Crow said. I bet you needed a bath after that, Rizara. Summer giggled. I needed like 20. The demi-goddess groaned. A ball of mud did that much damage? Cinder asked, shocked along with the teachers and at lesions, Weiss, Penny and Pira WL. In essence, I suppose a large, condensed mud ball could be quite heavy. Glinda said, although it sounds like she was trying to convince herself. I'm starting to believe we should stop attempting to make sense of these monsters' abilities for the sake of my processing and your sanity. Penny told them. Oh, it's also worth noting there's an ice version of this monster, called a Jade Baroth, but its kinship attack is still the same. It just turns its mud ball to ice just before launching it. Katana added. Cephadrome sand spray. Teko was seen surfing on an unknown monster beneath the sand, before a hammerhead shark-like creature with legs burst out of the sand with a roar, before diving back beneath the sand, going completely underground along with Teko, before they burst out of the ground in front of their opponent, causing a tidal wave of sand and dirt to crash down on the gypseros they were facing. Yeah. Another shark monster. Nora cheered. A sand shark. Sun may not want to go back to Vacuo anytime soon with those things around. Blake stated. Swimming through sand like water. Quite fascinating. Ashbin said. Buried under all that sand? Yikes, not a good time. Roman said with a shudder. A day at the beach gone super wrong. Neo agreed. And it's the desert, so you know that sand's gonna burn. Emerald added. I hate doing that attack. It sucks being under all that sand. It's all rough and coarse. And it gets every Teko started. Don't you fucking dare. Rizara snapped at her sister. Diablos, fiendish cyclone Rizara charged forward on her Diablos, before the flying wyvern dove into the sand and popped up, powering through the sand like a shark through waves as they circled a Baroth once or twice, before causing a massive fissure in the ground, bursting up from directly under the poor brute wyvern while making a giant dust devil, too, that sent the creature plummeting to the ground, revealing machinery equipped to it. 3. Ruby and Nora will get excited at this. It's like another sand shark. Ruby cheered, high-fiving the bubbly hammer user. And did you see that dust devil? That was awesome. Yang said excitedly. Or, how about the fact it caved in the ground? A fissure that size looks like it could easily fit a whole house in it. Ren stated. Is that machinery? Hazel asked. Both of Katana's daughters shuddered at this. Yes. There was a mad scientist named Dr. Menelger who saw writers and became obsessed with the idea of controlling monsters, rather than living peacefully and bonding with them. He captured numerous monsters and grafted armor and machinery combined with a kinship stone on them and tried to control them, all to get the world to recognize his genius, which eventually led to a nationwide catastrophe. Razara explained. "That's terrible," Pyrrha said in horror. "No living creature deserves that," Blake said in sadness. "I don't think even Watts is that depraved," Winter said in disgust. "I didn't think it was possible for someone to be worse than Jacques Schnee," Adam growled. "I want to break his legs," Nora snapped. "Sorry, but one of his mechanized monsters broke out of his control and ate him," Teko said. Everyone was surprised at this, but couldn't say they felt bad for the man. Tigrex Rock Smash. Tigrex stood atop a massive mountain and roared, before jumping off the peak and charging down the steep side of the mountain, off of a cliff, where it brought its paw back, along with Razara, the two of them channeling their energy together as the pseudo-wyvern slammed its paw into the ground, sending a massive web of cracks through it with energy surging all through them, before creating a massive explosion, managing to bring down even the massive Gravios. As soon as Blake and Velvet saw Tigrex, they instinctively covered their ears. "Not again," they both cried. "It's alright, Bun Bun. It doesn't look like its roar comes into play here," Coco assured her teammate. Emerald also rubbed Blake's back. "She's right, Blake. It was just that one little roar. You're fine now," Emerald told her, the two Faunus girls being able to watch the clip. Everyone else will be shocked at the force displayed. Holy crap! That explosion was huge. An even bigger light show than when Blake set her house on fire. Ilya said. "I did what?" Blake cried out in shock at her future actions. "That was so awesome. We need to get someone a Tigrex," John said. "No." All the Faunus cried, even Adam and Ilya, who lacked the enhanced hearing. A molten Tigrex was shown with Teko riding it, the two performing the same attack, but this time, rather than a massive series of cracks through the ground, the blast-powdered beast released an enormous cloud of blast powder throughout the arena. Suddenly, a very strange-looking feline emerged from the smoke, before smirking as electricity sparked off his whiskers, igniting the blast powder, creating a massive explosion, sending the feline flying and obliterating the Uragon trapped in the powder. "Who or what was that?" Neo cried out as they saw the feline emerge from the blast powder. Teko groaned. "That's Neighboru, this feline that followed me around for the longest time for whatever reasons. You might have seen his whiskers spark, because he was experimented on by Menelger, he was explained earlier, and infused with the power of a Xenober, so he could generate electricity. That came in handy once or twice, but he was so annoying. He offered to be my navigator, but he was a complete idiot who couldn't find his own butt with both paws and a map. Not to mention, he was a complete glutton and made Professor Port seem humble. That's how arrogant he was. I had to ditch him when he was sleeping and go to the new world to finally get away from him." Katana's younger daughter ranted. "Oh. So, Weiss before she became nice," Ruby stated. "Hey." Weiss snapped. "Still, it's quite impressive he has the abilities of a Xenober. Just a shame of how he obtained those abilities," Ironwood said. Iodrome Poison Slash. Like its raptor brethren before it, the Iodrome cried out to the sky before leaping into the air with Teko, doing some flips in midair, before rapidly swinging its head like an axe with its axe-like head crest glowing purple and leaking a purple venom as it struck the Rathian they faced off against. "I wonder if poison would be useful against the Grim?" Weiss wondered. "I like this one. An axe on its head must be pretty useful," Summer stated. Hey, isn't that the one we saw with its pack taking down a Xenogre? That must mean they're pretty capable. Crow added. Basario's laser ambush. The enemy's POV was shown once again as the target tried to look through a thick purple fog to spot Rosara and her mount amongst a massive field of rocks and boulders. However, it soon spotted Rosara through the mist due to the glint of sunlight off her binoculars. She then raised her hand as the rock she was laying on rose up, revealing it to be her monster as it glared at the target and opened its mouth, firing a massive beam of fire and heat from its mouth, destroying rocks and cutting through the fog before slamming into and staggering a Gravios. I don't like that look it had. RWBY said, shivering a bit. Yeah. It's a little creepy. Velvet agreed. Well, it is a monster. I doubt they get very far if they look adorable. Cinder stated, remembering that the bears, while adorable, were very low on the food chain. However, all that changed when they saw the beam. RWBY, Penny, and Velvet all had stars in their eyes. That is so awesome. RWBY cheered. Such power. It appears to at least be comparable to a railgun. Penny said in awe. Very smart, hiding amongst the terrain and smoke. Winter praised. Yeah. That's how you win against bigger, stronger opponents. You fight smart. Hazel agreed. And it reminds me of a sniper's nest. Very nice. You could have a nice future as a sniper, Rosara. Maybe next time you could join RWBY and I when we do our sniping practice. Summer offered, holding RWBY close. 5. I'll think about it. Rosara told her. Gravios magma surge. Tekko was seen riding an unseen monster through a giant lake of lava, an epic and serious look on her face, before her very sizable monster rose from the lava and let out an equally massive roar that caused more lava to burst around them, before the wyvern fired a beam even more impressive than the last one to completely engulf a Rathian, the queen of the land's shadow faintly being seen inside the inferno-like beam. That is so badass. John cried out. I want to do that now. Cinder said excitedly. That is so awesome. It puts that last laser to shame. Nora said. We might have to get the Aesops one of those creatures. Ironwood decided. James, that creature just emerged from molten lava. I'd wager it's much happier in warmer climates, rather than Atlas. Ashvin shut that idea down. Uragon rolling shot. Rosara was rather comically seen to running in reverse atop her massive, rolling monster as they rolled down a mountain similar to the one Rosara and her Tigrex left off. The rolling creature then began to catch fire from the speeds and heat they reached, before they flew off the cliff and Rosara kicked the creature down towards their target, before it unfurled and brought its massive and powerful chin down on the Rathian they faced. Oh, I so want to do that. Yang cried out. It looks like so much fun. RWBY agreed. Plus, it'd be a great leg workout. Blake said. Leg day was definitely her favorite, as it helped tone her belly booty. Am I the only one picturing clown music looking at this? Neo asked, everyone raising their hand in confirmation. Dang. That chin looks like it could hit harder than I can. Hazel stated. Jaggy strike. Tekko rode on the back of yet another raptor, which suddenly roared and called in a pack of smaller, but similar-looking raptors, all of them leaping into the air together and slamming their full weight down, feet first onto a royal Ludroth. Adam smiled at this. That's what the White Fang should be like. All coming together for the common goal of destroying the opposition. He stated. Or peacefully changing things, right? Ilya asked, glaring at him along with Blake. Right. He said, a bit intimidated. Still, like Adam said, it is a good metaphor for coming together against a bigger threat. Velvet admitted. Kechawacha torrent glide. A strange elephant-eared and trunked monkey covered its eyes with its ears, which had intimidating eye-like designs on the back, before it leapt into the air, Razara leaping off its back and doing a backflip along with the primate, before it extended its arms to glide with Razara landing on its back like a surfer, before the beast launched a volley of water balls at a large Jaggia, staggering it. "That looks amazing," Pira said in amazement. "Oh, I have so got to try that," Coco declared. "It's like an anteater, flying squirrel, elephant lemur." "Am I close?" Ren asked. Kechawacha. "They live in forests, they're curious about anything new, but they'd rather flee than fight," Katana said. "They're adorable. I can't wait to see if we'll have any around Patch," Summer said excitedly. Yain Garuga barrel charge. The black wolf bird let out a cry as it flew high in the sky with Teko on its back, before it dove down and flew towards the enemy, rocketing forward at great speed with an aileron roll, before diving down even further out of the sky, almost hitting the ground before it pulled up and slammed into the Rathian they were contending with. "Oh, yeah. That's my baby," Roman cheered. "Perhaps I should incorporate more rotations into my own flying style as well," Penny thought. "I've always liked doing some acrobatics in the air, both in bird form and human form." Crow agreed. "Slamming into a way bigger monster like that? I'm surprised you and that Garuga didn't shatter," Emerald told Teko. "Hello, Kinship, remember? I was channeling my energy into the monster to strengthen it. And in case it hasn't been obvious by now, demon energy? Pretty epic," Teko explained. Kongalala foul burst. The gorilla-like beast rushed towards its enemy, all the while Teko was flinging various mushrooms ahead of it from on its back, the beast gobbling them all down before coming to a hard stop and drifting to turn its rear to the enemy, from which it released a massive blast of gas at the poor Gypseros. 1. Everyone were repulsed by its attack, but Ruby, Nora, and Young couldn't help but laugh. "Boy, I feel sorry for the poor sucker that gets hit by that stink bomb," Nora said. "It's certainly a unique way of disorienting one's opponent," Ashbin stated. "If by unique, you mean disgusting, I completely agree, sir," Glinda corrected. And of course, none were more repulsed than the She sisters. "I did not just see that. I did not just see that," Weiss kept repeating. "Honestly, Teko, you are a young lady. Surely, you could come up with a more refined technique than that," Winter scolded. "Hey, it works, doesn't it? And besides, if there's one monster that deserves that kind of treatment, it's Gypseros," Teko defended herself. Xenogre voltage crash. A Xenogre charged through the darkness of night, only lit up occasionally by lightning strikes, before the fanged wyvern held and illuminated itself and Razara as she rode on its back, the thunder wolf wyvern leaping into the air, surrounding the two of them with electricity as it came hurtling down towards the ground, letting out one more powerful howl before it crashed into the ground, creating a giant series of cracks through it, before creating a giant electrical explosion that put Kazus to shame, demolishing their Barroth opponent. "Awesome," Nora cheered. "Oh, man. Just imagine how much stronger monsters would be if we unlocked their aura. Maybe they could do these attacks on their own," Young said. "I'd have to load up with enough thunder dust to fry my whole body to do that," Hazel stated. The way it was so well hidden in the darkness, before lighting up the area itself at the last minute. "Xenogre is truly an awe-inspiring force," Ren declared. Nargacuga Dark Thrash. A Nargacuga stood in its fighting stance in the dead of night, Teko sat firmly on the creature's back before its eyes suddenly flashed red, rushing in at blinding speed and moving to the left, before rushing in and slashing in Ursula before it could even react, then vanishing and reappearing, before rushing in and slashing the Temnoceran again while the beast appeared to be sitting still. This tactic was repeated several times, before delivering one final slash as everything went red, the monsters and rider only a silhouette against the imagery, before then Ursula collapsed. Eek! Delvet cried out in fear, leaping behind the couch. Scary, she said, her prey instincts in full effect. Amazing, Blake said in awe, absolutely loving the attack. That was awesome, Blake. I love how it came in from all those different angles and looked like it was going so fast, then Ursula didn't even know it was happening. Ilias said excitedly. Indeed. It may be even faster than I am, if I had to move from place to place to cut at all the different angles. Adam stated. I'd expect nothing less from Blake's monster. Emerald praised. Rat Halo's Sky High Dive. The King of the Skies roared at their opponent, before shooting forward, flying just above the ground, before rising high into the air, piercing through the clouds above and coming to a stop, before extending one of its legs as it channeled fire into it, along with Rosara channeling her own energy, the two of them catching fire from the speeds they reached as the Rat Halos prepared for a monumental, fiery kick. They finally came dive-bombing out of the air and slamming into their opponent, making an explosion that created an enormous pillar of fire, before they landed a safe distance away and spun in a half-circle to look back, devastating the Royal Ludroth they were facing. Whoa! Nice fireworks, Crow said. That is amazing. That kick was incredible. I could really feel you guys working together, like partners should. Summer stated. Summer is right. It's clear you added quite a bit of power to that technique, and the column of flame speaks for itself. Ozpin praised. It almost looks like what Elatrian did. If it's even close to that powerful, you two clearly did something right. Ironwood agreed. Teko and her silver rat halos performed a similar move, but when it came time to dive out of the air, they dove down headfirst and the rat halos launched a massive fireball from its mouth, resulting in numerous explosions that looked like several fireballs connected together as the two watched from up high. Ooh, now that's more like it. Those are fireworks, Cinder said in approval. Yeah, that'll definitely toast you a marshmallow, Roman agreed. Or toast you if you get anywhere near close enough to toast a marshmallow, Neo said with a deadpan expression. Lagiacrus Thunderous Blast. The king of the Leviathans dove into the ocean during a storm, swimming rapidly in a circle deep below the waves to create a massive whirlpool, before rocketing up to the surface, creating several waterspouts and swimming through the main one, before bursting out of it along with Rosara, the two encompassed in a massive orb of electricity. The beast then shot out another orb of electricity from its mouth, creating another massive electrical explosion that easily brought down their Quechua enemy. Amazing. I'm truly starting to believe that the power these monsters can achieve will literally never cease to amaze us, Glinda stated. And that's merely the power of a normal Lagiacrus, so imagine what your rare species could do, Ironwood added. Hopefully we never have to find out, Coco said, a bit nervously. Unless it's on Team Carden, Emerald said with a smirk, getting chuckles from the other students. Deviljo Hunger Rage. Navaroo prepared to eat a well-done steak on a bone, before noticing some saliva dripping from the Deviljo's mouth as it eyed the meat hungrily. The violent wyvern then roared as Navaroo freaked out and ran towards the enemy, the Deviljo giving chase despite Teko's best efforts to rein in the beast. Navaroo quickly devoured the meat and threw the bone away before diving to the side as the brute wyvern leapt for the bone, snapping it in half in midair and then diving down on and slamming into their Velocidrome enemy. Despite being afraid of it, the group could help but laugh at this. Well, that's definitely one way to get a Deviljo moving, Glinda said. Yeah. Good to know. If a Deviljo shows up when I'm hunting some Grimm, I can just throw some jerky at them and he'll go for it. Crow chuckled. Poor Navaroo. Ruby and Velvet said. I know you said he was irritating, but that hardly means he should be eaten, Penny said worriedly. Although, he probably could have picked a better time to be eating. Still, I'm glad he's okay. Kira agreed. Why didn't you try harder to stop your Deviljo? Blake asked. Does it look like I wasn't trying? Anything else I could have tried probably would have hurt Crush Jaw, and I'd rather lose Navaroo than him, Teko stated. But, how do you manage to keep a Deviljo under control with its relentless hunger? Winter asked. We just fed him a bunch of stuff that slowed his metabolism down. That and I can make the food he needs in a second, Teko explained, creating a steak on a platter that was the same size as her, much to everyone's amazement. Great baggy lullaby. Teko rode atop yet another raptor, significantly larger than the other ones. Similar to the Great Jaggy, it let out a roar, which called many smaller versions of itself to its side, before they all leapt into the air and came down face first, all of them delivering a vicious chomp all at the same time, staggering the Querpico that were fighting, before causing it to fall asleep. Just how many raptors are there? Weiss cried out in shock. There's at least 6 more kinds we didn't use in this video, Teko answered. 2. Raptors that can induce sleep with their bites. Those could be very useful for subduing larger monsters, Winter stated. That would likely end the fight quickly and with minimal injury to both parties. Excellent idea, Winter, Penny praised. Barioth, ground cyclone. Rizara was on the back of the ice-tusked wyvern as it held itself high up in the air, before firing a beam of ice down at the ground, which created a line of ice spikes shooting towards their enemy, before shattering into a massive ice tornado that launched the Deviljo they were facing into the air, freezing it and battering it with ice chunks, before causing it to fall to the ground hard. Awesome. That's kind of one I'd expect from one of the Shnees, John said. It's so cool, Ruby said, before gasping and realizing what she said. I did not mean that as a pun, she clarified. But you still made one. I'm so proud of you. Yang cheered, hugging her sister. Definitely in my top 3. Blake said, proud of seeing another cat-like being so powerful. You definitely seem most comfortable with that Barioth, Ironwood noted. Yeah. Crystal is my main monster. She's always there for me, Rizara said, summoning her Barioth and happily jumping onto and laying on its back. Burkidio's rocky blow. The Burkidios pulled back its fist in preparation for a massive punch, Teko mimicking the movements to send her power into the monster. The wyvern's eye then flashed as its fist caught fire. As it prepared to throw the punch forward, it had a flashback of all of its training with Teko, pulling a log that she rode on while providing words of encouragement, jumping rope while Teko watched on in approval and even stepping up to help it train its punches on occasion. That memory provided encouragement as it threw the punch with full force, bringing down their pink Rathian opposition. "Aw, that's so sweet," Kira said adoringly. "Yeah. It really looks like you took a lot of time and care training your Burkidios," John stated. Puffs is my second closest after Crush Jaw," Teko confirmed. "Cuffs?" Coco asked. "Short for fisticuffs," Teko explained. "But, how are we seeing its memories?" Emerald asked. "Don't question it." Neo shushed her. "That was epic. I love training montages in movies," Yang cried out, looking to her Rajang. Raiden. We should totally try some of that. She told the fanged beast. Let's do it. The gold lion beast roared. Reminds me of all the time I should have spent training with Gretchen, making sure she was ready for Beacon. Hazel said, turning to his Burkidios. But together, we'll train and make sure we're ready for anything. He told the beast. Kirin Phantasm Horn. Lightning struck down on a mountain top as a Kirin reared back onto its hind legs, while Rosara pointed down at their enemy. The elder dragon then leapt from foothold to foothold as it jumped down the mountain, lightning striking behind it with each movement, before they reached the bottom and the Kirin lowered its head, its horn glowing with power as it rushed forward, moving as fast as a flash of lightning itself, electricity trailing behind it before rushed past the Iodrome they were facing, cutting it with its horn and allowing the lightning to do a lot of extra damage. Ah, yeah. Fear the power of my thunder pony. Nora cried out, hugging Sigrun again. Beautiful, yet deadly, and full of energy. It fits you perfectly, Nora. Ren told her. And respect for the extra lightning flash at the end, as if getting sliced by a huge unicorn horn wasn't enough. Cinder added. It pays to be thorough. Hazel stated. Monoblow's demolition dash. The Monoblows roared and reared its head back, slamming its head and horn into the ground, before rushing forward at Tekko's command. Its horn began to visibly heat up as it rushed forward, allowing it to slash through a sand barrier like nothing, the pseudo-wyvern not even realizing it had been hit for a moment before a wave of pain washed over it and made it collapse. Adam smirked at this. Smart. It's using the ground to heat up its horn to make it easier to slash through its target. I've been thinking of adding some form of addition to blush in order to heat up Wilt's blade for when I don't have Moonslice prepared. He noted. Clever idea, Mr. Taurus. With how thick and powerful these monsters' hides appear to be, we may all need to look into increasing the cutting power of our weapons and penetrating power of our ammunition. Some of us may actually need to start carrying bladed weapons with gun attachments. Glinda said, starting to wonder if her trusty crop, even with powerful dust that allowed her minor weather manipulation, would be enough against most monsters. Laser-based weaponry may also be useful for heat treating and weakening their shells or horns as well. Penny pointed out, having seen in one of the memories of the future Katana showed them that she used her laser to weaken a Megaliath's tusk, allowing RWBY to sever said tusk and make the Megaliath fall on it. Ceregios, piercing stars. Rosara and her Ceregios flew straight up, high into the air while doing an aileron roll, before the wyvern of 1,000 blades pulled its wings inward, before shooting them out to the sides, causing countless numbers of its scales to come off, all aimed down at the opponent, who now seemed literally faced against 1,000 blades. The scales then became alight with energy before the Ceregios dived down, the scales soon following and shooting past the ride and rider, raining down on the Cephadrome they battled, before Ceregios came down on it with a devastating diving kick, knocking the sand dweller down. It's like a meteor shower of blades. RWBY said with stars in her eyes. So beautiful. All those blades would be plenty. And if they aren't, that kick should take down anything. Summer said, throwing a few kicks from her seated position. She made it a point to employ a good number of physical moves into her style along with her weapon. Amazing. It keeps the enemy pinned and leaves it open for maximum damage. Imagine if our whole team could capitalize on that. Velvet said. You and Quickshot will be wiping out whole hordes of Grimm on your own. Coco told her. The Great Poogie March. Tekko rode atop a large black and white pig with a scar over one of its eyes, with dozens, if not at least 100 other, smaller pigs running behind them in a full-on stampede. They charged towards a pink Rathian, who rightly looked confused, but disregarded the danger, believing that it wouldn't be hurt by such tiny beasts, but was proven wrong as it was sent flying and then crashing to the ground. Everyone could only blink in shock and confusion. "Well, that was something," Ilias said. "Yeah, something ridiculous," Roman added. "Seriously, I know there's strength in numbers, but all those tiny pigs taking down a dragon like that is nonsense. If they were full-sized pigs, then maybe, but all those tiny ones? No way." Winter refused to believe what she just saw. "Perhaps there's more to these pigs than meets the eye?" Ashbin theorized. "They're called puggies. People usually have them as pets. They're pretty clever and dig up useful things from time to time. But, make them mad and they can certainly knock the hunter on their butt," Katana stated. Glavenus crossblaze. The Glavenus ignited its tail on the ground as it rushed towards the enemy, shooting a fireball from its mouth at its foe, causing an explosion that staggered the Gravios. But this proved to be just a distraction, as it looked up to see Razara and her Glavenus spinning in the air, the sword tail in the beast's mouth, to further ignite the blade, before delivering an almighty cross-slash, slicing through a massive chunk of the ground, leaving behind a lot of heat, which caused an explosion soon after the slash that saw the Gravios collapse to the floor. "Oh, my gods!" Ruby and John cried out together. "Did you see that giant red X it made on the ground? That was so awesome!" John said in amazement, mimicking Nora and leaping against Guillotine and hugging the side of his face, even hanging on as the brute wyvern stood to his full height. "And that explosion following it was so cool!" Ruby cheered, bouncing excitedly. The other sword wielders were impressed as well. "I think I'd need to make like 100 fire clones to do that. I might be able to make a big cut like that with an energy wave, though. Just not as big," Blake said. "I'm sure you and Guillotine will be amazing when you can do things like that, John," Pyrrha told him. Teostra Sea of Flame 3. A massive wall of flames was all that could be seen, before Razara and her Teostra leapt out of it, rushing at the opponent with a wave of fire and lava just behind them. They then flew high into the air before the fire and lava could wash over them, before the Teostra roared and breathed down a beam of incredible fire and heat and the ground, easily cutting through a layer of the crust, before all the heat built up and created an incredible explosion, bigger than any previously seen with several different colors of flames due to the intensity in different areas. Everyone, even Cinder, was intimidated by the sea of fire and lava the Teostra created. "That's incredible. It would probably take all my maiden powers to even cause half that much fire and lava," Cinder said in amazement. "Man, I'm really glad you're on our side now. I would not want to have to deal with that," Coco said. "And we value your friendship, of course," Velvet quickly added for her leader. "And Lunastra can probably do the same thing. So I bet with her by your side, Salem will be afraid of you next time you see her, Cinder," Emerald said encouragingly. "Just make sure you can keep her under control, Fall," Ironwood warned. Luna growled at this, folding her wings and front legs protectively in front of Cinder. "I don't bother with insects unless they anger me, Ironwood. And you're coming close. Don't give me any more reason to fry you," she warned. Kushala Deora, terrifying tempest. Kushala let out a deafening roar, which could be heard over the 5 tornadoes it created all at once, before it flew higher up into the air with Teko, the tornadoes somehow merging with the dragon into one even more massive, icy tornado, which followed them as they did a loop-de-loop, before coming down and crashing on their target, creating a massive, icy explosion rivaling the one created by Teostra. "Well, that would make quite the breeze," Ashbin said, clearly impressed. "And likely destroy any nearby buildings or structures, sir," Glinda stated in annoyance, knowing she'd have to fix that. Hope you like roller coasters, Oz, because that's what it looks like you're in for if you try that move with Ozymandias. Crow laughed. When you put it like that, that actually makes it look really fun. Summer stated. Rajang, thundering meteor. Rajang's eyes flashed with fury and purpose as it roared, going golden and slamming its fists down into the ground, sending enormous cracks through it, which then filled with energy and exploded, sending countless boulders flying into the air. It then spotted one boulder in particular and leapt up to it using several other boulders as platforms to reach it, grabbing onto it and, along with Razara, channeling a massive amount of electricity into it, until it looked like a golden meteor, which Rajan then flung down on their Iodrome opponent, creating one final, but equally epic and massive electrical explosion. RWBY, Neo, Nora and especially Young were blown away by the attack. Oh my gosh. Sis. That was so amazing. RWBY cried out. I know, right? He hurled that meteor like nothing. Yang said excitedly. And that explosion was awesome. Look at all that thunder power. Nora cheered. Just as explosive as your personality. Neo giggled, wrapping her arms around Yang. It's perfect for the two of you. She told the blonde. So, what did you all think? Katana asked. That was amazing. All the attacks were so cool. And a lot of them were so funny. RWBY said, giggling. I think it's heartwarming to see these monsters come together with people to combine their power and use techniques neither one would be able to do on their own. Weiss declared. And I believe it reinforced just how incredible all these creatures truly are. Ashbin stated. Yep. Sucks some of us didn't see ours, but I get it. Crow said. Maybe sometime in the future, Stilts. Summer told him. Yeah. Those are gonna be super fun to do ourselves. Yang said excitedly, then smirked and looked at Blake. I bet Blake would love to get herself an Arzuros and do its kinship move to get some fish. She laughed. Miss Goodwitch. Yang is profiling me because I'm a faunus. Blake snitched. Glinda was about to lecture Yang on being offensive, but Katana stopped her. Blake, you really do need to stop being offended by every little cat joke. Yang's right, you need to learn to laugh at yourself. Instead of being an oversensitive little snowflake. Katana told the cat, Faunus. I told you. Yang said proudly. But Blake tried to argue. Of course, if you had better self-control over you animal urges and cravings, you wouldn't be such an easy target to poke fun of. Katana added. I mean, she kind of has a point, Blake. Emerald admitted. Yeah. Anytime you even hear the word fish, you get even more excited than I do about cookies. RWBY agreed. Excuse me? I have plenty of self-control. Blake declared defiantly, crossing her arms. Katana then had a red helm Arzuros appear in the room, and in between it and Blake was a large, fresh fish. Well then, now's the time to prove it. All you have to do is let that Arzuros eat that fish and you're already going for it. The ice demon said, deadpanning as, true to her assumption, Blake made for the fish before the bear did, on all fours no less. Also in the middle of the brawl, they could clearly see she was losing. Just give him the fish. Weiss yelled. Never. Blake declared. Young, Ren, Crow, Cinder and even Adam just shake their heads at the pathetic sight of her stubborn addition. 4. Finally, the Arzuros deviant threw Blake back into the couch and ate the fish, before disappearing. Blake had several bruises, cuts and bite marks, including a vicious one on her butt. But luckily, Katana healed all her injuries instantly. Emerald then helped Blake up. We're working on your self-control the next break we get. No excuses. She told the Faunus princess in a tone that left no room for argument. So, what's next? Ren asked. That would be a mighty elder dragon, the true ruler of storms, a leviathan of the sky. The mighty Amatsu, Katana declared, starting the next video.